Can you pay your tuition fee working part-time here in Canada? Let's find out in this video. Can I just come here, earn some money in Canadian currency and pay it off? So let's do a live calculation, figure out what our income's gonna look like on a part-time job, what our expenses are gonna look like, and let's see if we can make it happen. Before we even get to tuition, let's talk about your living expense, okay? One of your main costs will be rent costs and utility costs. Depending on whether you're staying on campus or not, your costs might differ. So let's just take an average of about, and again, depending on the city in Canada you're in, this might vary drastically, but just to take the worst possible estimate, let's go with $900 for your rent. This includes your rent and your utilities, everything. Let's go with that. Okay, rent's covered. Let's move on to food. I think food is the next thing people spend the most amount of money on, especially if you're not eating at home, you're eating in restaurants outside all the time. The average meal can cost anywhere between $8 to about $12 depending on the restaurant you go to and how often you go out. So a safe estimate will be at least $300 to $400, and again this might be on the upper side depending on your lifestyle, but just in case, let's take $350 for now. Of course, if you're going to have fun in Canada, you're going to need to transport around. You might have your own car, you might not have your own car, you might use public transport, and public transport can cost you anywhere between $15 and $100 unless it's included in your university's fees. Students have a lot of discounts as well, but if you are coming here, let's just say take a safe estimate of $50 a month for your transport fee. Entertainment's another big one. I know people go out to a club sometimes, they don't know how much they're spending. They can spend anywhere between $20 to maybe up to $100. I've seen people spend a lot more than that, but depending on your lifestyle, how often you're going out, you might be spending anywhere between $50 to $200. If you're really lavish, you might be even going up to $500, who knows. But realistically, let's go at around $100 a month just to be safe for entertainment. Another cost you're bound to have here is paying for your phone bill. No phone package is going to cost you less than $35. So safely, let's just assume a $45 phone package to go with us. If you add all these expenses up, you get about $14.45 a month. That's just your living expense, not counting the tuition at all. Realistically, you're looking at around $15,000 to $17,000 a year just in living expense, and around the same in tuition. So you're looking at around $30,000 of expense per year being a student here in Canada. Now, I know this sounds really intimidating and you're wondering, how on earth am I going to pay all of this money? So let's have a look at how much you can make realistically if you have a part-time job. Depending on where in Canada you are, you'll earn differently depending on the minimum wage. So let's just take a 14.5 as our rate at the moment. You're only allowed to work 20 hours a week as a full-time student. So let's just see how much money you can make. And do remember, it's not always the case that you will always get 20 hours from your employers. When I was working there for a whole year, on average, I was getting between 12 and maybe 14 hours a week on a busy week. Okay, so it really depends. It doesn't mean if you're gonna get a part-time job, you will get 20 hours. That comes to $310 a week and $1240 at the end of the month, but don't forget there's a tax reduction as well. Let's just sum it down to $1,100 a month income from your part-time job. Calculate that to about a year and that's $14,880. Your expenses came up to around $30,000. The amount of money you make from your part-time job is less than half of that. So clearly we can see that a part-time job does not really cover tuition and living expense. Yes, it can pay for a good chunk of your living expense here. You can support yourself while you're here, especially if you really cut down on the food costs and the entertainment costs. You can get by with a part-time job. I know a lot of people who do. Another thing worth considering is during the summer, for a lot of programs, you are allowed to work full-time. So say, for example, instead of working the whole year just part-time, you take 2 months out of that and you do work full-time. Let's say for 2 months you're working 40 hours full-time and the rest of the year you worked 20 hours a week. That will give you a couple of extra $1,000 to work with, but it's still not going to cover your tuition fee. So you will definitely need your own financial source. The reason I mention this is because so many people plan their academics coming to Canada based on the fact that, okay, once I get here, I'll earn enough money and then I'll be able to do it. The problem is they get here, they realize they just can't make enough money to support themselves and their tuition fee. And what ends up happening many times is they can't support themselves. They either pull out of the program and they go back, or during their stay here, they don't really get to enjoy all of Canada for what it's worth. Keep that in mind. You need to have a solid financial backing. You can support yourself once you come here, but it's really unlikely that you will pay your tuition fee here. I know this was a very realistic example, but it gives you something to think about. I hope this video helped out, gave you some perspective about what kind of cost to expect. Make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel for more, comment on what you want to see next from my videos, follow me on Instagram, and I will see you in the next one.